What are we listening to today?
The Immigrant Project by Girish and Astha.
Girish here from the Immigrant Project, Astha behind the camera. This is episode number 32, and we have Cassandra Fultz with us today on the show. Cassandra is the founder of Doherty Fultz Immigration consultancy firm. They have offices in Toronto and Ottawa and have been in business for around over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years. So, Cassandra, I know we have a list of questions. First of all, welcome to the
Thank you
show.
for having me.
we have around list of 10 questions, and I know you have made notes. I have my notes ready. We have been doing a lot of research on the immigration system, but there were recent elections in November in the US, and of course Canada is going through elections right now. So in all of this chaos, how have you seen the business of immigration been like?
Well,
Is it business as usual or is it very different?
well, there is no more business as usual. Ever since COVID, business as usual is gone. It's never a dull moment. Everything is different. You wake up one morning and then nothing is as it was yesterday. That's just the way it is. So, in terms of the election cycle, 'tis the season. Uh, Whenever there's a US election, inevitably, about 150 million people are not happy. Someone is always unhappy with the outcome of the election. So you always see an uptick in consultations and inquiries after that happens. But this time is different. This is very different because usually it sort of peters out, right? You see it spike up again around the inauguration. People are mad again,
Yeah.
but then they just are resigned to the outcome, and that's it. We'll see in 4 years, right? But this is completely different, and I can tell you that the demand has not only kept up, but it has increased as time has gone on, as policies have been put in place. Every time an executive order comes out, the phone rings. So this is definitely different than previous election cycles.
Well, I know certain professionals from Canada and US side, they can move to other countries with proper work permit at the border.
Mhm.
But the other way we can immigrate is of course claiming a refugee status. But if suppose one is getting 100 inquiries, how out of these 100 queries, how many do you think would be eligible to move to Canada?
That's a really good question. I would say I would give it at least 50%. I would
50%.
Yeah, from the US, yeah. There's a lot of choices. Americans definitely have a leg up above other nationalities when it comes to moving to Canada. Like you mentioned, for temporary residence, so getting that work permit, like NAFTA is still there, right? It's gone through 8 different names, but it still
Cusma?
exists, right?
Yeah,
Kusma,
USMCA.
Muksa, like whatever,
Yeah.
whatever they call it these days, it's still there, and you can still get that work permit. There's also the international experience class, the IEC work permit. Some people don't know this, but even Americans can do this through a registered organization.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yes. So, like, obviously, it's Brits, it's Irish, it's Aussies doing the IEC, but Americans can do it too through the RO. And then, of course, there's the LMIA that still exists if you want to get a work permit. And then for me, a lot of people who contact my office, they're one half of a couple, right? So they're married to a Canadian or a permanent resident, right? There's that split. They've been in the U.S. for some time, sometimes decades,
Yeah.
sometimes for nearly their whole lives, and now they want to move back because of what's on the news. So yeah, that's definitely something that you see. Americans come as students all the time, so everything that everyone else does, Americans do it too. Plus, they have like a sprinkle of other options.
Well, one last question on this before we move to the next subject. I have been reading news that a lot of these Canadian scientists, a lot of business people, they were planning to move to the US, but now they are stopping.
Yeah.
One of the professors, he said that he got I don't know, opportunity in Columbia or Yale, I don't remember, but they said they didn't take it up. They will continue in a Canadian university. Have you seen this trend?
I have definitely seen that trend. So it's very funny. The world today is completely different than it was 6 months ago. 6 months ago, Pierre, like PP, he was a shoo-in. He was gonna be the
Exactly.
PM. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, we don't know, but come on, like you can see the polls, right? Liberals are leading
43%.
15% over like
Yeah.
the conservatives. This was
Exactly.
unimaginable 6 months ago. And 6 months ago, like Canadians were like, oh, the job market is, it's not great. I want to go to the US. I'm going to make the big money. I'm going to get the big job. I'm going to go work for Fang. I'm going to get, I'm going to be a doctor down there and be making 600,000 US dollars,
Yeah.
right? So you're getting that dollar plus 40, 45%. Like it's a huge raise. 6 months ago, everyone was gung ho. And now they're like, oh, actually, let's just put a pin in that and we'll we'll check back in 4 years. So it's really, people are changing plans. They are changing plans.
Yeah, it's crazy how the pollings have changed. I mean, conservatives were leading and liberals were what, 18%, and now they have shot up to 45%.
It was gonna be a bloodbath. It was
I
gonna be a
know.
massacre, the likes of which no one has ever seen. And now here we are. Prime Minister Carney is like leading the charge. So
And I sometimes read the news and say that NDP will cease to exist.
one never knows, but you have to change with the times. You have to stay flexible, and I think that's what the parties are trying to do right now. I know some are succeeding better than others, but that's the way I see it.
Cassandra, I was speaking to one of the lawyers a few weeks back, and they said that Canada, in their immigration system, they had something called as business visa or a startup visa, which was not used used properly. Now, my question is twofold. First of all, the recent U.S. administration government power, they announced something called as golden visa, pay us $5 million and then you get something. I don't know, you get a PR or something. Can Canada have something like that? First of all. Second, will people ever use that route? And third, why did we fail at that startup slash business visa? If you have an idea about that.
Okay, so I do have an idea.
Yeah.
So first, let's get in the time machine and
Okay.
let's travel backward. So Canada used to have a federal investor program. Did you know?
Okay.
Did you know that exists? It's a long time ago. Okay, so the federal investor program, this became defunct over 10 years ago. It's been gone for a long time.
Okay.
And the reason that they got rid of it is because it's going to sound funny,
Okay.
but the people who got, it was a permanent residence program. People who got PR through the federal investor, they had the absolute worst outcomes of any PR stream in history
Oh
for
no.
integration. They did not integrate into Canada, right? They
man.
came, they paid, they got their PR card, and they left. And that was it, right? That was it. They did not integrate by and large. And this is not my opinion. This is what the stats say. They just simply left. And so what you would see is, 5 years later, I actually had many of these clients who needed to renew their PR card and didn't meet the residency obligation. Why not? Because they weren't here. Right?
Yeah,
They weren't here.
You need 3 years out of 5 years, right?
You need 2 years out of 5 years to renew your PR card. So 730 days.
Okay.
So that stream had the absolute worst outcome for integration. So they got rid of it. So the government got rid of it. And that, again, that's a long time ago. There were still some provincial investor streams after that, but one by one, they really died off, right? The programs expired and then the provinces didn't renew them. So at this point, there's only one left, and that is the Quebec investor. So Quebec still has an investor.
Program.
Yes. And so, the requirements are, I mean, certainly it's not easy. You need like a net worth of like $2 million, and then you got to invest. It's like 1.2 million with the government of Quebec. And then, you leave it with them at 0% interest for 5 years.
Oh.
And so it's not easy by any means, but there are no more passive investment programs to get status in Canada, except for that one. It's truly the last of a dying breed. It's done. So, could we have such a thing again? It really depends, in my opinion, on what is the vision of this government. What do we want to accomplish through immigration? When you see the countries who have really thrived and have really leaned into those investment schemes, like Portugal, like Greece, these countries famous for their golden visas, they did it because they needed the cash, right? They
Yeah,
needed the investment. Like,
exactly.
Canada has lots of money. It doesn't really need the money. What it needs is people. What it needs is
It
people
needs
who
people.
have skills, who are going to go to work every day, who are going to invest with themselves into the economy. So I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. If it did happen, I think it would be like a program very limited in scope, like even more limited than the one that opened and closed on Monday. The caregiver program with had like 2 spots in it.
Oh,
So I don't anticipate that happening. It never say never, never say
exactly.
never, because people's memories are short, right? I remember that happening all those years ago, but I'm sure no one in the government does without looking it up in the archives. So could it happen? Yes, but it really, to me, it feels anathema to the goals of the immigration outlook, of the goals of the government at large. It just doesn't fit to me. So I don't see it happening.
All right, you say that Canada doesn't need money, it needs people. Then why is there a recent change in LMI? Why are LMI scores not added to the express entry?
This is a good question. So it's it's kind of funny because it's one of those instances of like, this is why we can't have nice things. The reason that LMIA and other, eligible job offers have been removed from Express Entry, like CRS scores, is because people were selling them, right? People were selling them. Unscrupulous employers and unscrupulous applicants were, buying and selling LMIAs to the tune of, 20, 30,
30,
40,
40, correct.
$50,000 a pop. And eventually the government figured this out. It only took 10 years, but eventually they figured it out, and now we don't have it anymore, right? But here's the thing. These programs change all the time, right? That's the thing about Express Entry. It's meant to be fluid. It's meant to change with the times. Just because something was the case in 2015 when it came out doesn't mean it's going to be the case today or tomorrow. So like, you can't count on it. Back in the day, everybody got 200 points for a job offer, eh?
Yeah.
When Express Entry came out. So, and so they had to stop that. And this is the same thing. So you'll see changes, you'll see new things added, and we all just have to move with the times.
Do you think these changes are for good for the system,
That's a good
immigration system?
question. I don't know. I
Because
think
we need people at the end of the day
we need
and
people.
skilled workers.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, it's a good idea. Having a job offer helps you integrate into society. I don't think it's bad in and of itself. Obviously, fraud is bad, and
Yeah.
selling of these LMIs and job offers
Numbers,
is
yeah.
terrible. But it's a good idea. We just have to figure out a way to make it practical, right? To minimize fraud. You'll never eliminate fraud. It's impossible. As soon as you fix one thing, they find another way,
I know.
right? But I think that if they can figure out a way to really reduce the fraud, then you might see it again. You might see it again. And funnily enough, I was doing some research, and you know what? Only 6 to 7% of ITAs that were issued were to people who had an eligible job offer. So
Wow.
you see the news and you think, oh, everybody has an LMIA. Like, this is going to bring the scores way down. This is not going to bring the scores down.
No.
It was only like literally 6 and 7% in 2020, 21, and 22, which is the most recent data.
Wow. Let's switch gears, Cassandra, for a bit. Uh, I saw a recent article which came out, and it ranked Canadian universities as one of the best in the world, McMaster, University of Toronto, etc., Western University, etc. But there are also certain colleges and university which we have never heard of, and these universities, they attract a lot of international students. Now, when students come and study, they don't find job offers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going on, and why are these universities or colleges rather shutting down recently? I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot that they are shutting down.
Absolutely. I'm not going to name any names, but
Okay.
yes, this is a complex issue. There are multiple reasons why schools are cutting programs, cutting admissions, like even literally shutting down. And this goes back to the funding for the school, right? The schools are supposed to receive funding from the province.
Okay.
And then the provinces stopped funding them. They said, you know what? You're on your own. Find your own money. And they did. And they did by finding international students.
Yeah.
And then they really were making money. They're like, oh, this is great. We can build that building. We can get this lab. We can buy this equipment. We can get more students, all this stuff. We can hire more people. We can have more programs, right? So they did. And then more and more international students came. And yes, there was definitely some dependency on that money. But, then the government was like, oh, not like that. No, not like that. Yeah, find some money, but not like that.
Not like that.
No. So here we are. They have slashed the number of international students, placed limits, right? Now we have the provincial attestation letter. And that's why it's happening, right? Like this is a politicized reaction to truly what is a funding issue when it comes to post-secondary schools in Canada. So that's that issue.
So it's a problem created by the government, which they are trying to fix by reducing by capping
Absolutely.
the number of immigrants.
That's it.
Wow. And I know it's off topic, and I know this is something we never discussed previously, but do you see US following the same pattern? I know they recently eliminated the Department of Education. They said that they revoked funding of Columbia University. They are now looking into funding of Harvard University. Do you think US will go through the same issue right now?
Well, the US has different problems. The US has different problems. So in Canada, if you're a domestic student, and for anyone who doesn't know, I'm American, so I say this through this lens.
Okay.
If you're a domestic student, school is cheap, okay? School is cheap. I know you're Canadian. You're like, it's not cheap. It's so much money. No, like in comparison, in contrast to what school costs in the United States, it's cheap. So
many students are in debt in the US.
Oh my God, everyone. But this is the thing. This is the issue, is that in Canada, if you're a domestic student, you can still work your way through school. It's totally doable. Totally doable, right? If you are in the US, man, even if you're in state, even if you're paying in-state local college prices, you're looking at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. I'm talking about 200,000 US dollars for a bachelor's degree. It is insane. And the only way that people who are not rich, like filthy rich, can pay for this is to take out loans. And this becomes a self-perpetuating cycle, because when the money is available, just take out a loan. Well, then they're like, oh, well, we can charge that price. Right? So, yeah, 200,000. Yep, just sign here. And that's what people do. And so it perpetuates that terrible cycle. And so, we want people to have access to education. Obviously, education should be accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
But also, by the same token, when you simply give people a blank check with, as much loan money as they can, swallow, then now the prices just go nuts. The prices just go nuts because schools are like, oh yeah, you can afford it. Just sign this loan. So the funding issue is different in the US. And so US schools make their money on domestic students. They don't have to make money off the international students the way that Canadian schools do. Don't get me wrong, they do. They're charging those people through the nose to go to school in the US on like J visas or whatever. But they don't have to. They're not going to not survive. They're not going to cut their lights off or cut programs or, lower admissions because international students didn't come. Like that's just not how the funding model works.
So it's a different problem.
It's a different problem.
It's not apple to apples comparison. Absolutely. Yes. Sandra, I want to talk about my example. So I was coming to Canada. I was planning to come to Canada a few years back, 2021. I was in the express entry system, and I was hoping to get 600 additional points so that Ontario picks my profile and I get through PNP. But that was not the route that I was counting on. Now, I want to talk to you about an example of, say, a student who gets PNP from Yukon, which probably doesn't have a lot of, say, management level jobs. And of course, their application is in the express entry system. What advice would you give to such students or people waiting in the express entry pool who get picked up by provinces where they don't want to be?
This is a good question. My advice to any such person is consider it. Okay, consider it. Number one, you mentioned the Yukon. I just want to mention that wages in the Yukon are high. Okay, it's actually, if you're trying to do an LMIA for someone in the Yukon, those people have to pay the most. Because nobody wants to live there, right? So to get someone to go take that job, you're really paying. So consider it. It's, in my experience, in my opinion, from what I've seen with my clients, it's it's a short-term sacrifice. And I mean short-term. You don't got to live there forever. Like, you can just stay there. Give it a go, right? Give it the old college try. Stick it out for a couple of years. Number one, you might even like it. You might even like it. There's a whole country out there between Toronto and Vancouver, okay? And then on the other side too. So
Yeah.
give it a shot. And I will even
Okay.
say, like, shout out, Winnipeg is one of my favorite cities. I love it.
Really?
It's a great town. It's so much fun. The culture is great. It's beautiful. Like, it's cold, but but there's lots of good things going on. So give it a go. And if you don't like it, you don't have to stay forever. It's truly a very short term sacrifice for a
6 months?
permanent gain. I would say this is a really common question. People ask, how long do you have to stay? You do a
Okay.
PNP, how long do you need to stay there?
Hmm.
My recommendation is that you give it, at the very minimum, 1 year.
Hmm.
My strong recommendation is give it at least a couple of years. Give it at least a couple of years to stick, right?
Okay.
And the reason I say this is, if you accept the nomination and you just peace out to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
From wherever you were in, like, Manitoba or Saskatchewan, then they can get you for misrep, right? They can get you for
Oh,
misrepresentation. They can revoke your permanent residence. They could even revoke your citizenship later, because misrep is actually the only reason they can take your citizenship away.
misrep.
Yes.
Wow.
So don't do that, right? But all you have to do is, seriously, give it like 2 years and you have lived there. You have lived there. There is no definitive period of time that you must stay this minimum amount of days. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's discretionary, right? It's at the discretion of the officer. So you have to live there, right? They have to believe that you have really lived there and given it a go. But if you, seriously, if you give it a try for 2 years, and, like, you couldn't find a job at your level, or you couldn't find a job in your field, or you still don't know anybody, or you just don't like it,
Yeah.
now
Then
go
move.
go on,
Yeah.
move, try somewhere else. There's tons of provinces, loads of different cities, right? Just try
Yeah,
something
that's right.
else. You don't have to stay there forever. So to me,
Hmm.
it's such a short-term sacrifice. We're really talking about a year to 2 years out of your entire life to get permanent residence. The key word there is permanent, right? Once that's done, the whole country is your oyster. And then you're only 1 year away from Canadian citizenship. To me, like, it's an obvious choice.
That's true. Yeah. Who knows? You might even like.
That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
you
Like,
might
have
even
you
like
seen
it.
those videos of I forget his name, but the gentleman who he does, like, the Bangla dancing, and he's like up in Yukon, he's like in the snow, he's like dancing. It's actually
Oh wow.
amazing. I love this guy.
So Canada has been a very welcoming country, Cassandra, and I was honestly, this was my second time applying to Canada. I was originally planning to apply in 2014. Anyway, I've always considered Canada a very welcoming country, but what I'm reading right now in the news, of course, the level of immigration level going down and colleges shutting down. I've also seen a lot of rejection in temporary visa application for
Mhm.
visitor visa application. Why do you think this is happening?
So the issue that we're facing right now is, it all has to do with the immigration levels that are set by the federal government. Now, there is a political aspect to this,
Hmm.
right? Anyone who was conscious over the past year definitely saw sentiments rising about immigration. This became a really hot button political issue. And so, even even Mark Miller said it. Even the other one, he said it too. He's like, "Oh, we should have taken our foot off the gas sooner. We brought too many people, and we need to have some people leave to
500,
yeah,
500,000, right?
exactly. So it has to do with the numbers. It's just sheer numbers. So they don't want to replace the people who are leaving with just
Yeah.
new people, right? So now, for the first time, we have temporary resident levels, whereas in the past, before this, we only had permanent resident goals. Like, no one was paying attention. Frankly, no one was paying attention. They were just like, yeah, okay, let's do this, and then all of a sudden, there's nowhere to live. You know, so this is definitely what happened. No one was paying attention. So it all has to do with trying to bring back that equilibrium. You know what I mean? So
Okay, so balancing immigration with housing, with job market.
absolutely. Absolutely. With resources, with infrastructure, it's all a balancing act. And, as things go on, you probably saw Prime Minister Carney, he made a big announcement. He's gonna, build all these houses, all this stuff.
Yeah.
As things happen and like rents go down, they're gonna bring more people, right? So this is the thing. It's not static. You're not gonna see the exact same numbers year after year after year. It's gonna go up, but it's also gonna go down from time to time as things change in the world. This is just the way that it works. Programs come and programs go. Levels go up, levels go down based on what's happening. But this is what we actually want. We don't want absolute numbers. We don't want to bring people here and there's nothing for them. There's nowhere to live. There's no jobs. You don't want that, right? So you want to come here and be successful. And that might mean that fewer people can come for a few years. And then as things settle down, then more people will come later.
Wow, that's a brilliant answer. Sandra, one last question for you before we move on to the final question, which is like a rapid fire round, if I may.
Is that when I find out if I win the crown?
So the question is, sorry, the people coming to Canada, immigrants, they are being blamed for a lot of issues, housing, inflation, joblessness, etc. And we've asked a lot of our previous guests this question, and unanimously they all believe this not to be true. What is your opinion on this, if you would like to share?
This is a great question. And my answer is that there are so many factors which have contributed to this. To say that it is the fault of immigrants is nonsense. Like this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There are so many issues at play here. There's the fact that CMHC has not built houses since the 90s, right? Like you can't blame 30 years of not increasing the housing supply on immigrants. They weren't even born. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? It makes no sense, right? So we cannot blame the fact that provinces are not funding health care on immigrants. That's on, the guy in the big house. That's not on people, again, who probably weren't even born yet when all of this started happening, because all of this started being defunded decades ago. Decades ago. So, yes, a bunch of people came, and yes, it added strain to an already strained infrastructure. They didn't cause it. They definitely did not cause it. It wasn't their idea. They didn't even know. They didn't even know this was a problem until they got here and there was nowhere to live, right?
Yeah.
Because it's, they don't put that in the brochure. So, yeah, it's not their fault. They didn't do this. These issues are squarely at the feet of those in government, the decision makers. These are their problems and they're going to have to fix it.
Brilliant. Cassandra, the last round is a rapid fire round, of course. Let's respond thinking about the Canadian immigration in mind, and of course you can address the US as well.
Okay.
I'll give you a few words and you have 30 seconds to respond, okay?
Is there a timer?
Um, I'll keep it. How is the new election affecting immigration? The election that's taking place in Canada.
The Canadian election,
Yes.
well, things are completely different, as we said. With a Liberal Prime Minister, we might get totally different programs, right? There's going to be a different overarching vision with a Liberal government versus a Conservative government. No matter who is in power, there will still be immigrants and there will still be immigration. But the goals of those programs could look completely different. So with Mark Carney in power, if he wins and Liberals come to power again, then you might see. I don't think you're going to see more of the same, though. I want to be super clear about that. Even though it's a Liberal government, it is not a Trudeau government. It's not going to be more of the same.
How has Donald Trump upended the immigration system?
So I don't think he's quite upended it yet. We're all waiting. We're all waiting to turn on the news one day and see people streaming across from the United States, walking over like they, did 10 years ago across Roxham Road and things like that. We're all waiting for that humanitarian crisis to happen. Thank God it hasn't happened yet.
Hmm.
And hopefully it never does. Hopefully it never does. But what we are seeing is more Americans who are more interested than ever in their neighbor to the north, making a little move, crossing the border, that imaginary line, coming over to this side, especially when they have Canadian family members. They might have been living in the U.S. for decades, and now all of a sudden, like, oh, what's going on in Manitoba? Let's go see.
I feel that there's a very good people to people connection between Americans and Canadians. So
Definitely.
no quasi dictator will ever upend that.
These are our people. These are our cousins,
Yeah.
right? At the in BC, in the park, what the Peace Arch says, it says children of a common mother. And it's the dead truth. It is the dead truth. We are nearly the same, right? We're nearly the same. We're cousins, we're friends, we're family. We shouldn't be fighting. It's not the people driving any of this. And I know that's not what the people want.
Okay, last question, Cassandra. If Cassandra was ever the immigration minister, what would she do?
Okay, just so you know, this is my secret dream. It is my dream to be the minister. Absolutely. So what would I do? The first thing that I would do is I would listen to people. I would listen to people because, outside of Ahmed Hussein, think about our previous immigration ministers. Have they ever even filled out a visa application? Did they even know what that means, right? I want people to be able to share their experiences, because when they say, "Oh yeah, we're meeting with stakeholders," who are those stakeholders? It's the provincial governments, it's giant corporations, right? It's the Westons, whatever. But it's never the people. The people are the real stakeholders. The people are the real stakeholders. Canadians are the stakeholders. People who were born here, people whose grandparents were born here, people who just got here. They are the stakeholders. And that's who we should be listening to. So if I were the minister, vote for me, then that is the first thing that would happen.
And if I was a citizen, I would vote for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Girish.
You were ever done. Cassandra, this was a pleasure and we enjoyed a lot. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. This was a real pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.